to today's webinar, How to Design Finance Business Partnerships that Drive Full Cycle Transformation. I'm Nicole, your moderator for today's session. I see people are still joining, so I'm going to just kind of continue my opening and we'll go from there. Welcome, as I said, welcome again. For the next 60 minutes, we are going to be focused on learning all about how intelligent business partnerships pull finance teams out of the back office and put them in the driver's seat. Are you ready to drive transformative growth? Did you know that manual tasks still eat about 60% of a finance team's day? Closing the books often drags on for more than 10 days. Data hides in silos and partners wait for answers. Yet boards now ask finance to do more, to fund fresh ideas and to guide risk decisions. One of our main goals today is to show a clear, tested path that meets both demands. At Excella FAO, we build AI-led full transformation F&A solutions. We bring people, workflows, and cloud technology together in one service. Clients start small and can scale fast because they do not have to chase new F&A service providers at every step. Our focus is simple: lift cost pressure, speed up insight, keep compliance tight, and hand back time so your team can plan for the future. Now, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping for today's webinar. We will run about 45 minutes of guided insight and case studies, then open the floor for questions. We will share the link to a comprehensive downloadable self-assessment checklist and also a link to a consulting and process due diligence audit at the end. So make sure you stay with us. We have a lot of great conversations and case studies lined up, but before we begin, let's warm up with a quick poll, which should be popping up on your screen right now. And if the poll doesn't automatically pop up, navigate to the lower right corner and click on the dots or waffle icon and select poll. As a finance leader, what keeps you up at night? Is it growth pressure, efficiency gaps, compliance load, or technology adoption? Don't worry, we'll share the poll results in just a few minutes and shape our talk around what matters most to you. In the meantime, I'd love to introduce our panel of finance and accounting experts who bring diverse perspectives, both as solution providers as well as real enterprise practitioners. So with us today, we have Rob Brown, who's a CPA and Vice President of Accounting at Iron Oak Energy Solutions. He brings over 25 years of experience in finance leadership, including driving successful mergers and digital transformations in the energy sector. Next, we have Tom Menifee, Senior Director of Project Management at OpenText. He specializes in enterprise-level digital capture solutions and large-scale process automation. Next, we have Avishek DeBroy, who's the Deputy General Manager of Solution Design at Excella. He is our leading specialist in designing robotic automation and digitized record-to-report processes. Next is Harry Swamy, Senior Vice President for Global F&A Shared Services at Excella. He offers nearly 3 decades of expertise in setting up scalable, high-efficient shared service operations worldwide. Finally, I'm Nicole Rowling, Head of Global Corporate Communications at Excella Technologies. We're happy to have you here with us today, and I'll be your moderator. All right, looks like the poll has wrapped up. And as many of us might have expected, we are focused on growth and efficiency, which aligns perfectly with what we're planning to cover today. So let's dive right in with our first topic. Why has growth become the #1 priority for CFOs in 2025? I want to hand it over to Rob. We're seeing CFOs shift from cost control to growth enablers. From your experience leading finance at multiple organizations, what's driving this shift and how are CFOs adopting their strategies?
Thanks, Nicole. There's no doubt that we've seen the role of the CFO evolve, particularly in the last few years. And I think that there are really 3 key factors that are driving that shift. First, market volatility has created this urgency for finance teams to deliver real-time insight and agility. And that volatility certainly exists in the space that we operate in. Second, digital tools have matured. Cloud platforms, AI, automation, those used to be things that you would say, boy, that sure would be nice to have. But today, in this environment, they are must-haves. And I think thirdly, board expectations have changed. Finance kind of historically has had a scorekeeper role, but that's changed. They want finance to become advisors, to become strategic partners, to deliver value to all stakeholders. I can give a pretty good example, which relates to our post-merger environment. Covey Energy, this was in November 2024. Covey Energy merged with Black Mountain Sand to form Iron Oak Energy Solutions. That positioned us to be a leading diversified proppant provider in North America, frac sand provider, with 8 active facilities supplying every major shale basin. That represents 35 million tons of production capacity, 1 billion tons of reserves, and more than 800 employees. This is definitely a time when finance had to really pivot from compliance-centric reporting to a more strategic position. We certainly had to perform our month-end tasks related to the close, but we were also focusing on more value-added activities, forecasting, optimizing working capital, and of course, identifying ways to increase growth. Really partnering with Hari and the Accela team in conjunction with our colleagues from our legacy parent company, Covey Solutions, really made a major difference. Through that process, we were able to digitize and automate the invoice lifecycle, which represented 8,500 invoices a month with 99.49% accuracy. That level of automation and efficiency let us absorb 23% volume growth without adding any headcount. It's allowed our close process to continue to be efficient and even expedited, which of course results in faster decision making. And I think it really does give us a growth edge. Now, those numbers I think are very impressive, but really they only tell part of the story. The real transformative impact, Nicole, has been on our ability to drive strategic decision making. With near perfect upstream accuracy and significantly faster turnaround times, the month-end close process gets completed more quickly, which means our business leaders have access to financial insights when they need them, not weeks after the fact when arguably the information is already stale. Anybody who's in the energy sector, upstream, midstream, downstream, knows that timing is everything and market conditions can change dramatically, really almost overnight sometimes. So having that real-time financial visibility can really mean the difference between, seizing an opportunity and missing it. So I think we've reached a point where, we're able to give our business leaders the critical information they need to make decisions faster, and act upon that information to add value.
That's great. Thanks for all those insights, Rob. I want to do a quick follow-on question to that. What do you think made this partnership so successful in driving your growth objectives?
I think the success ultimately came down to 3 key factors. And that is alignment, trusted execution, and effective oversight. First, Hari was our dedicated Accela point of contact who really understands the business. Not just the AP process, which is obviously a very important workflow, but how our field operations, procurement, and finance teams were all interconnected. That was really key. Second, we had and continue to have regular oversight touch points. And these touch points really evolved beyond status updates. They really focused on tracking metrics, flag exceptions, which of course resulted in continuous improvement. And third, there was just a very natural cultural fit. The Excella team was key and continues to be key in helping the finance team focus on other value-added activities. And I think these three elements fit perfectly with Excella's full-service solutions that they are designed to address.
Thank you, Rob. That provides a really excellent foundation for our next topic. Hari, Excella has developed what you call a full cycle finance transformation framework. Can you walk us through this approach and explain how it helps finance teams move beyond transactional activities to strategic transformation?
Well, thank you, Nicole, first of all, for this question. And it's very insightful to hear, Rob. Thank you for those kind words, Rob. So few of the things that Rob and Tom experienced is nothing but full service play. When we talk about the full cycle transformation, we start with what is the business outcome that we want to give it to our customers. So the business outcomes could be improving pay on time, improving the cash flows, improving the month-end close, which Rob spoke about, or driving some outcomes that drive the top revenue for the company. For example, how do I make all the cash applications 100%, improving the DSOs and things like that. Now, Excella has a unique proposition of bringing three things together. And I'm going to give you an example. We bring our ability to study the process vertically and horizontally. We bring the value of analyzing the factors that impact the business outcome. And then we drive our solution. So I'll give you a very simple example that will make very, very easy for people to follow what is full cycle transformation all about. When you look at the business outcome, let's take this example of pay on time. And we'll take an example where we transform for a retailer. The first thing we did was to really look at the value chain of the retail business, right from warehouse to stores, after sale. And we looked at sub-processes impacting the value chain, overall aligning with the business outcome of pay on time. Then we looked at the horizontal process, which is nothing but procure to pay. So we looked at all the factors right from procurement, managing the life cycle of the invoice, and obviously the payment to the vendors. And then we collected all those factors that will improve the business outcome, which is pay on time. And once we analyzed the factors, we were able to bring in our own technology solutions owned by us. We were able to bring in our analytical engine. We were able to bring our business services model. And we wrapped up all this with our ability to consult and give the solution for the customer. So I'm so excited, even still remembering those days when we gave on day one 50% improvement on pay on time. We digitized everything that was paper-based. We automated everything was rule-based. We took some processes and optimized. And essentially, we were able to bring in the entire bundling of our ability to study the process vertically and horizontally, our ability to bring solutions which are tech-based, and wrap all this with analytics. So we are a service provider that typically bundles all the three and drives the outcome. That's typically the full service play, where you bring all the three components together and start your journey with the outcome. And then you go back and fix all those factors that impacts the outcome. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, that's really impressive. In discussing all of that and explaining it, I can't help but wonder, with so many areas to address, How do you advise CFOs to prioritize their transformation efforts?
Yeah, that's a very important question. And as I always tell my teams and my customers, we are truly the extended arm of any CFO or controller. So the first thing we do is to really look at where the customer is lying. So we have three buckets where the customer is kind of lying. The first bucket is where the customer is pretty matured, processes are standardized, they are harmonized, you don't have fragmentations. So that's the type of customer where we bring in our entire scale of digital transformation, analytics, AI from day one, and drive exponential increment in terms of outcome. That's the first category of customers, and that's what we advocate for them. Then we have the second category of customers where they have a mix of fragmented processes, standard processes. So that's where we bring in our strength of consulting and really look at how do I standardize the process and then drive the outcome. And my colleague Abhishek is going to really give some examples around how we typically do in terms of executions and what we have done for several customers. When Tom talks about it, he's going to talk about how we manage, because open text was in the second category, where you have a mix of both standardization and fragmentation processes. The third category is the category where we get pretty much close with all the stakeholders, where everything is fragmented, processes are manual, they need a lot of hand holding to be able to drive digital transformation. So what's important for us is to really first bucket these bucket the customers into three elements of maturity, and then really standardize the process. Remember, if we automate a process which is damaged, we are further damaging it. So it's very important for us to really make sure that we standardize the finance process. And we will talk about COE and stuff like that later part of the webinar. But great question, and thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Hari. That framework provides excellent context for our next segment. I want to move over to Tom. You've worked with numerous organizations implementing finance transformation initiatives in various industries. Can you share some real-world examples of how companies have benefited from this approach?
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. And thank you, Hari, for the breakdown of the full cycle transformation framework. So I run our fax business at OpenText. OpenText is a large software company that we're experts in information management. So within the fax business, my customers use our fax services to send and receive confidential information. The key is, what do you do with that information? Originally, we had engaged a service provider as our dedicated partner for data extraction and conversion services. When our previous partner announced they were discontinuing these services and exiting the market, we found ourselves with a challenge, as you can imagine. We needed a partner to replace them who could not only maintain continuity with our customers, but also elevate the level of service to meet changing customer expectations. After a thorough evaluation of available service providers in the market, we selected our new transformation partner, who's Accela. Accela initiated a seamless transition plan to ensure uninterrupted support of our clients. We faced several challenges, the biggest of which was we had little time to make the replacement, but Accela really stepped up and proved to be a great partner. So let me walk you through one of the implementations just to give you an idea of how the technologies work together to meet the needs of our customers. So one example for a beverage company, which illustrates how a well-designed workflow drives significant business value. The workflow begins when purchase orders from the client's bottlers arrive as TIFF attachments, or TIFF is a fax document via our company, so OpenText fax to email service. These files are automatically ingested into Excella's document processing platform, where they undergo OCR processing. Traditional OCR systems simply extract text from images with limited accuracy, requiring extensive manual verification. Excella's approach is fundamentally different. Their system doesn't just extract the data. It understands the context of that data and applies business rules to validate information in real time. The extracted data is queued for an initial quality check by Excella operations, ensuring that all critical fields have been captured. This is crucial because incomplete data early in the process creates tremendous problems downstream. Identifying and addressing these issues at this stage prevents costly rework and delays later on. What makes this solution uniquely powerful is Excella's auto lookup engine, which takes the raw OCR values and cross-references them against the beverage company's master data. This could be customer master data, like bottler IDs or addresses, that sort of thing, or product-specific master data like SKU codes or descriptions or pricing. This is data validation and intelligent enrichment that adds value to the information flowing through the system. The system creates a complete and accurate picture of each transaction without human intervention by connecting previously siloed data sources. And then finally, Excella triggers an API call to upload the finalized data into the client's SAP system. This seamless integration eliminates the manual rekeying of that data, which often introduces errors in traditional processes. So Nicole, hopefully that was enough detail for you.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for the detailed outline of the process. Now, at this point in the webinar, I just want to remind everyone that we will have time at the end of the session for any questions. But right now, let's have a pulse check and take another quick poll. Just as a reminder, if the poll doesn't pop up on your screen, navigate to the lower right-hand corner of the screen and select the dot or waffle icon and select poll. Are you enjoying the session so far? While everyone votes, Tom, I do have a follow-up question about what you were covering. What kind of results has this partnership delivered for the beverage company?
Yeah, the results have been great because we have happy customers, including the beverage company. Initially, we struggled to meet the 1 hour turnaround time requirement, which was a beverage company KPI that directly impacted their ability to serve their bottlers efficiently. So after deploying Excella's automation solution, the 1 hour SLA was consistently achieved, along with other performance metrics. In addition to speed, accuracy, of course, is very important. OCR accuracy improved dramatically from about 30% up to 85%. This improvement fundamentally changed the economics of the process. And we've been sustaining the quality SLA of 99% since May of 23, so a couple of years now. So let me share some specifics on what drove these improvements. First, Excella implemented auto correction of OCR extracted data, which significantly reduced manual intervention. So instead of having humans fix common errors, the system learned to recognize those errors and address patterns automatically. Second, they developed sophisticated pattern matching for ship to names on purchase orders. So the system can now pull the correct ship to name based on context, even when the original data is ambiguous. Third, they created intelligent PO number validation that auto certifies transactions even in cases of lower confidence. So while showing soft alerts if the final PO number doesn't meet expected patterns, this balance of automation and control ensures efficiency without sacrificing accuracy. And then finally, Excel implemented smart date validation. So as you can imagine with purchase order dates, they have to fall within a set range after the reference date. Otherwise, they are flagged for validation. Similarly, for delivery dates, they also must fall within a specified date range. So these kinds of intelligent rules can catch potential errors before they create problems downstream.
Tom, these are impressive implementation outcomes. These kinds of results, I would imagine, really build momentum for future initiatives. How would you say they have impacted the broader business objectives for these companies?
Yeah, so the real magic of transformation isn't just about adopting new technology. It's about how that technology drives, crucial business outcomes. Take the beverage company example. Their biggest hurdle was inefficiency in their procure to pay workflow due to high exception volumes. By addressing this, we didn't just speed up processing, we significantly improved their relationships with their bottlers, made their cash flow more predictable, and gave them much clearer visibility into their supply chain. In an industry where timing is everything, this translated directly to a competitive edge. Together, these capabilities don't just process documents faster, they fundamentally change how clients manage their procure-to-pay cycle, empowering finance teams to shift from transaction processing to strategic activities. We've seen equally significant impacts with other clients, for example, in the insurance industry, accelerating their processing timelines and boosting accuracy by automating document classification and subsequent data extraction. This means faster payment cycles, stronger vendor relationships, and more precise financial forecasting. So the key takeaway here, successful full service transformation is about more than just implementing isolated solutions. It's about reimagining your end-to-end workflows using intelligent digital inflow, AI-led data extraction, and smart automation. When you combine these with deep business process expertise, the results can be transformative for both finance operations and overall business performance. Frankly, we're at a fascinating time with technologies like AI and machine learning, offering unprecedented opportunities to reimagine how finance works.
Well, thank you, Tom. Those real-world examples really do help bring the concepts to life. Now, at this point, I do want to shift gears just a little bit. Abhishek, now I will turn to you. I'd like to dive deeper into the execution side. According to you, what are the key factors that drive successful finance transformation? Could you walk us through these and explain how they create tangible business values?
Sure, Nicole. Thank you. Before I actually jump into my topic, I'd like to acknowledge the detailing that Hari, Tom, and Rob have explained, and they perfectly illustrate how strategic finance transformation manifests in the real world. Nicole, what I have found fascinating in my journey at Excella, that regardless of industry size, geography, certain fundamental levers consistently drive exceptional results when they're properly being executed. Sometimes I like to kind of think about finance transformation as a training for a marathon. You just can't buy a new shoe and expect the runner to finish the line. You need to build endurance, correct your posture, follow a detailed plan, fuel your body, and stay consistent to drive the results. So the levers that I'm going to talk about, they work in the same way
They build strength and resilience deep within the organization, not just at the surface. The first lever that I'm going to talk about is automation and AI. I think in the current world in the finance and accounts, automation is kind of very normal thing when the CFOs and the controllers would like to remove their repetitive steps, manual intervention, and with the current generation of finance and accounts, with the involvement of AI, CFOs and controllers became more greedy. And not only their standard rule-based activities, but they also want to drive good results and drive their business KPI from complex activities as well. But I want to be very crystal clear here that we just don't think about automation. I think Tom have already touched base on this point, that the magic of transformation is not only deploying a technology and run your broken process. I think Hari also touched base on the full service play when he was emphasizing on consulting. And this is where the power of consulting comes into play, where we analyze your as-is process, we reimagine your as-is process. If I take an example of one of my client of shared service center, we did the implementation of automation, but before transformation, they had a lot of fragmented process across their multiple locations. They had a lot of manual process, paper-based, documentation moving physically between departments. As it was so manual process, they had a common errors. The processing time were inconsistent, and most importantly, the controllers did not have the visibility of the data. What we have done, rather than simply digitizing their process, what we have done, we have re-engineered their processes. We studied their process end-to-end from value proposition point of view. And after that, we deployed our proprietary technologies in various ways, in P2P workflow, collections, tool for their consolidations, and we implemented all those things almost 80% of their entities. And the results was pretty good. We decreased their invoice exception from 30% to 12%, accuracy improvement done from around 70% to around 95, 96%. Key KPI, one of the key KPI that we got the improvement from payment on time point of view, we reached around 93, 94% from 70%. Not only from P2P, but also from R2R perspective, we did the analysis of their month-end close activities. We did the re-engineering, we did the workload balancing, implementation of the tools that actually helped them to reduce their month-end processing by 6 days. So that was my first lever. Second lever that I'm going to talk about is data-driven decision-making. And this is very, very important. Hari, again, I'm just quoting that Hari's example of consulting around analytics. And this is very, very crucial for any CFOs and controllers. We often see that teams, they sit on a gold mine of data, but few extract the full potential of it. Most organizations are data rich, but insight poor. That's why we always emphasize on that to consolidate the data from various sources. If I take an example of one of my clients that they had multiple ERPs like SAP, JD Edwards, Epic or Solomon, etc., etc. I think around 5 or 6 ERPs. What we have done, that we have deployed a solution which helped them to gather all the information from various sources and make that data as a driver for their business KPIs. Initially, 70% of the bandwidth initially they used to put for consolidating data, trying to identify which data is correct, which data to kind of utilize for a decision making. But now, while they have this centralized consolidated data, it helped them for the decision-making point of view. It helped their cash flow. We improved their cash flow by 42%. We have identified almost $3.2 million early payment discount opportunities that had previously been invisible. We also improved their DSO. In FP&A world also, we have given them the indicative direction at least for 2 quarters, which help them to take a kind of critical business decision. So data-driven decision making is one of the crucial levers that from a transformation point of view. The third one that I'm going to talk about is scalable process, where many finance operations work great in the current setup with the current volume, but they break when they are trying for a growth. They are designed for stability rather than the flexibility. That's the most important point. I recall working with a rapidly growing technology company that was expanding into new markets, and their finance process have been designed when they were kind of single country operation with predictable transaction volume. But the moment they expanded globally, this process couldn't scale to handle increased volume and also the complexity. What we have done, by standardizing 50% of their sub-processes within 3 years of transitioning to shared service model, they created a foundation for sustainable growth. When the transaction volumes increased, in the following year, they handled with same capacity and maintaining the exceptional accuracy. I think Tom have touched base about that how Excel have helped OpenText in terms of meeting SLAs, turnaround time, and accuracy as well. So this is very, very critical. So we often call that don't build your finance process for where you are today, build them where you want to be tomorrow. That's the fundamental of the scalable process. The fourth point that I want to talk about is operational agility. So Nicole, believe me or not, that we are living in a volatile business environment, and finance must adapt quickly to changing conditions. I think we had a great learning during our pandemic situation where we had to kind of create the infrastructure for all individual resources so that they can work from home. At the moment that we did it, the team is fragmented, the knowledge got fragmented. How we can handle that? The COE model, that approach, that center of excellence, that can help us, creating a centralized knowledge. It's just not a structural change, but it's a fundamental reimagining of how finance expertise is organized and deployed. So operational agility is one of my strong levers. Last but not the least, I'd like to touch base upon the compliance. And this is very, very crucial from audit point of view and from controllers and CFO point of view. The common challenge that we have identified here is most of the processes, they had compliance at the end of their processes. Once all the transactions are being completed, all the, let's say, reconciliations are completed, and then as a detective method, they are trying to identify if the transactions are being compliant or not. So the approach or the solution that should be, the compliance should be part of your processing. If I take a quick example, from a reconciliation point of view, if I take the bank reconciliation example, while doing your process, attaching all your supporting documents, approval with a proper delegation of authority, all those compliance things should be part of the process rather than keeping it in the last. So Nicole, these are the 5 strong levers we have identified from the implementation point of view. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Those are really powerful points. I'm kind of, I want to dive deeper. I'm particularly interested in the COE model. Could you elaborate on how that differs from traditional finance solutions?
Sure, Nicole. Thank you for asking and bringing this topic, because I think this really needs a separate focus. So in one sentence, if I want to explain that what's the difference. So traditional finance is, if you take an example, that it's a kind of expertise within the individual trees where they do not have the visibility to the end-to-end forest. That's the fundamental difference. The traditional finance structure typically organizes teams by function, like AP, AR, GL, reporting, etc., that we have. The COE model flips that approach. Instead of organizing by function, We organize by expertise and capability, creating center of excellence that span traditional boundaries. If you ask me that what are the benefits, the key benefits that we can get out of COE model, I can think of three very crucial benefits out of it. One is it eliminates the silos. Secondly, it accelerates the knowledge transfer, creating an automatic backup. It helps in smooth delivery to the clients. And thirdly, it creates the natural career path for all the finance professionals to develop specialized expertise. So that's the fundamental difference between traditional finance structure and the COE. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. That gives us a clear picture of the key points for transformation. Now, let's make what we have been discussing actionable. Rob, based on your experience leading finance transformation, can you provide a practical roadmap for CFOs and finance leaders looking to implement these concepts?
Sure. I think when it comes to anything transformative, I think it's really important that we view that as a process, not a project. A project has a beginning point and an end point, but true transformation, enduring transformation really is a process. And with any kind of transformative process, you need to begin with assessing where you're at, where you're starting from. And that includes assessing really three important dimensions that I tend to hit on a lot, and that's your people, your processes, and your systems, right? And that assessment has to be candid. You have to be willing to identify gaps, being honest with yourself. Secondly, I think it's important that we view our organizations as something that can be shaped and molded, and not necessarily as something that we've inherited. Now, in my personal situation, there have been some folks that we've inherited that are awesome to work with. But if you can establish this clear vision of the roles, responsibilities, expectations, guiding principles, and that alignment that Abhishek referred to, then you're really shaping that organization, not maintaining the status quo. I think anytime you work in a team environment, whether it's professionally or outside of anything within the realm of your professional responsibilities, there's this balance that needs to be struck between short-term wins and long-term strategic changes. Going back to that first comment about doing an assessment, once you've identified those gaps, they need to be remediated, right? I know sometimes remediation has a negative connotation, but remediating gaps is actually a great way to delineate between quick wins and long-term initiatives. And look, there's a lot of different ways to remediate gaps, impact, effort matrix, whatever works for you in identifying where you are and where you want to be. That is really the crux of the issue. Of course, anytime you're going through a transformation, you have to have a solid foundation. Your foundation has to be solid, because if your foundation is not solid, then your effort's going to be for naught. So I tend to focus on three main areas: data governance, really making sure that the integrity of your master data is maintained, and then the reliability of your core systems. And these may sound very routine, very perfunctory, but we cannot ascribe enough value to the importance of performing these things. Again, deliver early wins. With my team, I sometimes refer to that as let's put some points on the board, right? Let's put some points on the board. In our case, and again, collaborating with Hari and his team and our colleagues from the legacy parent company, one win was an automated three-way match in our AP workflow. That small win helps build confidence And that confidence just kind of inherently helps support momentum, right? Momentum. Lastly, second to last, the penultimate comment would be invest in your people. I know we hear a lot about, I think everybody's got a mission statement that says, our people are our most important asset. But true change occurs when that sentiment is embodied and governs the behavior of senior management from the top all the way down. Because employees are the absolute most important asset that a company has. Because at the end of the day, if you want to affect change, meaningful change and impactful change, it's going to be because of your people. It's going to be because of your people. Technology can do a lot to underpin that. But at the end of the day, you're going to have people that need to do that. So, we consistently emphasize that automation, process improvement are not intended to diminish anybody's contributions, right? In fact, automation really enables our team members to focus on value-added strategic activities, what I call the fun stuff, the stuff that moves beyond the routine. And lastly, you have to be committed to measuring results and be very intentional in this commitment, right? You need to be able to engage stakeholders beyond those involved in whatever project. There's a saying that says when performance is measured, it tends to improve. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates dramatically. I think anybody who's worked in accounting and finance has been referred to as, my back office, the back room, all of which don't actually have a positive connotation, in my opinion. But with the right mindset, with the right tools, finance can become a strategic center of excellence to deliver values beyond just, closing the books, month-end close. And that's really where I think Excella's comprehensive solution, delivers value beyond just a standalone offering. So when you unite technology, you bring to bear the consulting and the subject matter expertise, coupled with those services, then what you end up with is the ability to very rapidly, in a transformative manner, effect change. When you've got a professional services partner that brings to bear those three very critical dimensions, then I think you really set yourself up for success. I really do, and that's been my experience in working with Hari and his team at Excella.
Thank you, Rob. You make us all want to bring the finance teams out of the back office, right? Because that's where the fun's at. We've covered tremendous ground today, from the strategic imperatives driving finance transformation to practical implementation steps. Now let's open the floor to some questions. I know you all still have some. I see a few coming through in the chat. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to throw these to each of you as they come up for the person that makes sense. So Hari, we have a lot of competition in the finance space. How do models like this in Excella drive value propositions for wins?
See, this finance and accounting space is very crowded market. So you need to be extremely valuable to your customers to be able to win deals, scale deals. We are very uniquely positioned as a company because of two reasons. And we feel extremely proud about these two reasons, and we execute this. You heard Tom, you heard Rob talking about it. The first and foremost is we go and tell the customers that we are there to reduce your wallet spend, because we will bring consulting, our own proprietary technology, as well as services together. So the customer need not to go to three players and kind of spend their wallet and still don't have an ownership, and there are gaps in the handoff. That's exactly we did for OpenText, exactly we did for INOC, and we are doing for several customers. That's very, very important when there are commitments to the board. So we are beyond service levels. We are really strategically connected with the customers to align with their commitment to their board. And we do that with extreme rigor on execution and touch points at each level. That's our biggest differentiator across 14,000 customers globally. The second, which is again very uniquely we are positioned, is we complement customers' investment and make sure we fill gaps where they are struggling. So we don't go and disrupt, saying that you replace your technology, you replace your workforce. We really look at, if the customer has already invested in X million dollars, how do we really make sure that there is an ROI, return on investment for that investment, and bring in our expertise of consulting services and proprietary technology, fill those gaps, and make the process seamless, making sure that the clients who have invested need not to really disrupt. And once the investment period is over, then we bring our scale. These are the two unique differentiators we bring it, and hence we are winning client after client, quarter by quarter, and we're excited about the future. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Hari. We appreciate that explanation. This next one I want to throw to Rob. Can you explain how Excella is driving the full service play model that was referenced in our discussion?
Sure. I'm going to go back to the example I gave about AP automation. That is a prime example of the services that Hari and his team have brought to bear. And so as we have looked at trying to establish, or as we're saying, stand up our own systems, as we've gone through a merger, a carve out, a merger, and an acquisition, it's been really important. And we are a lean team, right? We've been given a mandate to be lean because the market's volatile, margins are very, very thin, and so what Hari and his team have been able to do is to bring to bear, the services, the subject matter expertise, the technology, and that spend will return an investment for years to come, right? And so we've been able to take our resources, our employees, our very valuable resources, and move them away from very manual processes that would otherwise be ascribed to, say, an AP workflow, and put them in positions to do other value-added activities. And so that's where, and we're at the very beginning of this relationship, that's where it's probably been most impactful for us and for my team personally. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much, Rob. We appreciate it. Just for time's sake, I'm going to only take a couple more, and I'm going to combine a couple because I think they go together. Hari, what kind of transformations have you delivered for clients, and what is your roadmap for excellence?
We have delivered massive transformations for our customers. I think this is one which is very close to my heart, where we had a combination of tactical transformation, we had a combination of middle-level transformation, and hyper transformation. So this is a customer which acquired several companies. They created backlogs around AP. They had a lot of backlogs around AR billing. So you can mention all type of challenges. And we were invited, we were underdogs, but we picked that because our ability to engage with customers tactically and strategically with a combination of consulting services and technology brought us in, really up the curve. So what we did is we wore our tactical hat to clear the backlogs. And parallelly, we had a team really looking at what are the reasons for those backlogs, how many processes are fragmented, and they had multiple acquisitions. So obviously they acquired several ERPs. And going back to what Abhishek mentioned, because we had solved the issue of multiple ERVs, we were able to bring that together along with our tactical solution to clear the backlog. We were able to simultaneously clear the backlog as well as present them a transformational roadmap for AR and AP both. So that gave us a chance to present to their board, and we got selected, and we had kind of implemented their entire AR and AP together. Today, the pay on time is 99.9%. We have driven early pay discounts for them. We have recommended what should be the pay terms. And on the AR side, their DSOs are below zero, almost like it's on time. We have again recommended what kind of predictive analytics they can do for their AR processes. Future roadmap, we are heavily investing on AI. We are bringing our consulting much more sharper. We are bringing vertical focus put together. We are wanting to really drive predictive analytics from day one for our customers. So SLAs are given, transformation is given, road ahead is how do I predict how your entire finance operations from a business perspective is going to look like. So that's the key focus, and our entire leadership, including me, are maniacally focused to get that happen.
Thank you so much, Hari. Appreciate it. And thank you to all of our panelists for the insightful conversation today. I wish we had time to address all the questions that are coming through the chat, but we'll need to wrap up our Q&A portion now. For those questions we didn't get to, our team will record the answers from our expert panel and send a written follow-up to you via email after the webinar. So keep an eye out in your inbox. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for being with us today, and to everyone who attended. This was an incredible discussion on transforming finance from a back office function to a strategic business partner. Before we wrap up, I'd like to highlight a key takeaway from today's conversation that I hope you'll carry with us. We've seen how finance transformation isn't just about implementing new technologies or tweaking existing processes. It's about fundamentally reimagining how finance creates value for your organization. What makes Excella FAO uniquely positioned to support your journey is our comprehensive approach as a true full-service player. We don't just focus on one aspect of finance transformation. We bring together everything you need under one roof. We'd like to offer you a valuable tool to take your first step on this journey. If you scan the QR code on your screen right now, you'll get immediate access to our Do I Need a Finance Business Partner calculator. This self-assessment tool helps you accurately judge on a scale of 1 to 10 how urgently your finance team needs specialized and targeted help. It just takes 5 minutes to complete, so go ahead and scan this first QR code for that guide. We also have a rich resource section on our website that includes infographics, case studies, guides, and white papers covering every aspect of finance transformation. For those of you who are passionate about accelerating your finance transformation journey, we're offering a consulting and process due diligence audit for your finance enterprise. Our experts will conduct a thorough assessment and provide you with a detailed roadmap for full service transformation and help you to reduce your wallet share in your budget spend with our ability to bring consulting, services, and technology together. To apply for this exclusive opportunity, just scan the QR code on your screen right now and submit your application if you're interested. I want to say one final thank you for your active participation today. We hope you found this webinar valuable and that you'll join us again soon. Until then, may your finance transformation journey be smooth and successful. Have a wonderful day, everyone.